welcome to another episode of Crime Chronicles. This is where myself and my former teammate and SWAT, my good friend and brother in Christ, Eric Duhame, talk about our law enforcement careers and some cases that happened that we were involved in over the years. That
the more standout ones.
Yeah, some of them were exciting, some not so exciting, some funny, and some not so funny. This particular case was when I was working with Dothan PD. I was actually out working with one of the juvenile investigators on this particular night. We had some overtime money dealing with teenagers and alcohol, and we were actually at the Winn-Dixie parking lot at Hodgesville Road in the Circle, checking some juveniles, see if they were drinking alcohol.
There have never been any juveniles over there at that parking lot drinking alcohol.
Yeah. So this particular night, and we. The alert tone went off, got a call that there was a robbery and a shooting at the food depot on East Main Street, there between East Main and Columbia Highway. And so we were there, fairly close. So we run code 3. We get around there. There's been a robbery in progress, and a man's been shot. He's in pretty bad shape, and he's on the way to the hospital. This man was in line, and he had been under the influence of alcohol, and 2 armed robbers were in line in front of him. They pulled guns, and this guy tried to intervene in the robbery, and he was shot. Actually, he was shot right under his chin. Bullet went through, clipped his, here in his neck, some bones and vertebrae and spinal cord there in his neck. He was gravely injured, so they're on the way to the hospital with him. So they needed somebody to go to the hospital with the victim. So I took off. I followed the ambulance to the hospital. His wife, who was with him at the time, arrived on the scene at the hospital, and she immediately, chaplain there at the hospital had taken her into the chapel area there at the old ER at the medical center. There was a chapel right off the ER there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And taking her into the chapel. So I went to get a statement from her so that we could better know what exactly happened and, what kind of BOLO we needed to be issuing and that kind of thing. And as I went in and talked to her, she was extremely, extremely upset. Got her calmed down just a little bit to get the story. And she said that, her and him and another individual, they had been drinking some beer, and her husband had went to go to the food depot to get some more beer. And they were fussing and arguing as they arrived at the food depot to get some more beer. And this is directly out of her mouth. And she told me this story. And as she and him got out of the vehicle to go inside Food Depot, she told him, she said, "I wish you were dead."
Oh.
They go in the Food Depot, they get some beer, they get up there to get behind the armed robbers. He tries to intervene, and one of the armed robbers shoots him. And eventually he dies there inside the emergency room.
So he did die.
He did die.
Oh, man.
He did die. And this was, it's a particularly hard case. I mean, it was, listening to her relate that. And can you imagine the guilt that she felt afterward, even though she was mad with him? And it's just, be careful what you say, because, your heart typically speaks the truth. And when you're under the influence of alcohol already, and you got emotional things involved, and you're fussing and fighting, and then she tells him, "I wish you were dead," and then they go into the grocery store just expecting to go buy some more beer and end up in the middle of an armed robbery with some extremely violent individuals who were later captured down in the panhandle of Florida. Several months later, we found the car that they used, found it abandoned by the cigar factory shortly thereafterward, and they ended up getting caught maybe a month or so later down in, I think it was in Havana, close to Tallahassee.
And she's got to live with that for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
She really does.
Not that I would even say it, but I don't remember the lady's name, and would never repeat it on the air. But can you imagine the guilt that she lived with for the rest of her life from telling him that, and then it actually happening just minutes later?
That's terrible.
And, just to relate that story to the other investigators on the case and all was, it's just one of those that sticks out in my mind there.
Yeah.
A terrible ending to a case. And, with those type of circumstances involved, made it even worse for her as a victim. I mean, she said what she said, and then she actually witnessed what happened to him, and then he died a short time later. So be careful what you say to loved ones. Make sure you tell your loved ones that you love them, you care for them, and don't say things that you might regret later or would love to take back.
Never know when it might be your last.
Exactly. So